IAE 2953 is here, and is starting off with one of the most anticipated ship launches the event has ever seen. It has a bespoke landing system, 3 floors, unique weapon and component housing, and incredible texturing and animations. This is Gatac's first ship. This is CIG at their very best. This is the Gatac Syulen. Hello folks, Space Tech here, and welcome to a ship review and buyer's guide for the brand new starter ship going straight to flyable in Star Citizen. Of course, at its price of $70 and $65 Warbond, it's going up against strong competition in the Avenger Titan and the Nomad. Of course, starter ships have their own set of considerations that you may not originally consider with other ships for your fleet. So the question is, does the Syulen do enough to justify the title of Best Advanced Starter? I go into lots of detail, so I've left timestamps below for you to jump around to sections that interest you the most. And if I've helped you answer that question by the end, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. Starting off with the tour. The first thing that strikes you about this ship is the sheer scale of it while landed. The very first time you walk out into your hangar, you can't help but be taken aback by the obviously alien orientation and shape of a landed Syulen. It sits facing the sky on 3 massive legs. While impressive, it's worth keeping in mind that this large landed footprint, as well as the height, will severely impact the Syulen's ability to land in tight spots. You will have fewer options when deciding where to land beside a wreck, hiding from a bunker, or even in the forests of Microtech. That being said, the exterior textures and lighting of this ship is nothing short of immaculate. Every face of the ship seems to be made of a stone-like material complete with imperfections running through the rock. Details in the Xi'an language have also been carved into the material itself, instead of simply being painted over in metal. As we'll see on the inside of the ship, the appearance alone makes it obvious that no human hands have built this ship. Further evidence of this can be seen in the very entrance to the ship. Pressing this button to the right exposes an elaborate floating staircase, immediately setting the tone for the kind of alien technology you'll find inside. Similar to the C-1's lights around the ramp, you also have a warning red light that flashes to show you when the ship is opening, with it transitioning to a steady white light once you're cleared aboard. Once inside, you'll find yourself in the engineering and adventure prep floor. Here, we see more strange materials used for the walls and floor. Hitting the buttons on the left or right here reveal the components of the ship in an extravagant fashion, with the covering panels flying apart. These components include a size 1 radar and power plant, with 2 size 1 shield generators. The button beside it reveals access to 3 floating weapon racks. The first 2 can carry long weapons like the FS9, while the third rack has 4 shelves for smaller weapons and utility items like the multi-tool or the med gun. These really are must-have for experienced players and new players alike. Finally, we have room for an armor locker. The existence of this locker on the ship, as well as the other recent releases from CIG, show the commitment that CIG has to one day disallow players from flying their ships if they're wearing bulky armor instead of a flight suit. Of course, you're still going to want access to that armor in case you're headed into FPS combat or extreme weather conditions. Finally, we have this glass-floored elevator with text in both Xi'an and English to take you to the next level. A speedy ride later, we find ourselves on the habitation deck of the Syulen. First, we have the bathroom. On the left, we have a sink that the Xi'an would use to relieve themselves, so make sure you're cleaning it thoroughly if you happen to entertain a Xi'an guest on board. Besides that is the human toilet. I never thought I'd be so impressed with a toilet, but the amount of effort CIG has put into the animation for the seat and even the toilet paper roll really is incredible. Finally, we have our shower controls on the right wall. Stepping outside, we have a tiny desk to get some work done or eat a small meal. You can use the button on the far wall to raise and lower the seat, a much appreciated feature to make this smaller space feel larger when the desk isn't in use. Last on this floor, we have the sleeping quarters. Hitting this button placed almost on the floor on the left side reveals a storage locker that can hold 650,000 micro SUF cargo. While the bedding of this room is quite simple, you're immediately drawn to the new texturing on the wall. In fact, the material of the ceiling of the entire floor has been changed to this rough rock. This is because the Xi'an species is close to nature, so the material of the walls as well as the upward-facing lights are both reminiscent of caves, to make this floor feel closer to home for any Xi'an residents. Personally, I love this feeling as well. Strange, but undeniably cozy. Continuing this connection to nature is a heavily underutilized feature of ships in this game. Windows. Waking up after landing on a strange planet or mid-quantum jump, you're immediately reminded of your surroundings and the fact that you're in space. I hope we see more liberal use of windows going forward, but I'm glad that this ship has them. Going up on the elevator one more time brings us to the top floor, the cockpit. Here we have a panel on either side that opens up to reveal space for future components. This will likely be where the life support and the gravity generator of the ship will sit, which makes sense so as to keep the most important components hidden from the ground floor and potential boarders. It also gives you easy access to quickly repair them if the need arises. Taking center stage for this tiny room is your pilot seat, at first glance seemingly pointing nowhere. Sitting down quickly raises your seat to be facing upwards towards the glass ceiling using the Xi'an Gravtech. As you find yourself sitting in the position of the astronauts of the 21st century, metal plates close behind you, securing your seat in this raised position. This animation will never get old. In the pilot seat, you get access to 2 MFDs, as well as floating projected buttons for ship functions like lowering your landing gear and turning the ship on and off. While it will feel completely normal to fly the ship, passengers on board will look out the window to see the world moving perpendicular to them during flight or quantum travel, which may take them a while to get used to. This seating will also bring challenges when it comes to landing the ship, as you will have next to no visibility in the first-person view, forcing you to use the third-person camera as you put the ship down when you're arriving home from your latest adventures. CIG has clarified that an MFD/radar is planned in the future for all ships to help with landing, but this isn't going to be available at launch, so you are going to have to learn to land this thing one explosion at a time. Speaking of which, the kinds of adventures and game loops you can engage with is a fundamental aspect of what makes a ship a good starter. So what can you do with the shiny new Syulen? The very first game loop a new player is likely to engage with is combat. So how does this ship fare? The Syulen comes stock with 3 fixed size 3 laser repeaters between each spoke. Given its capacitor size of 25, this gives it a DPS just above the Nomad and a little behind the Avenger Titan, the go-to recommendation for combat amongst starters. You could drop these to gimbaled size 2s, but given the maneuverability of this ship, I don't think you'll find landing your shots to be an issue. The Syulen also comes equipped with 12 size 2 missiles. If you were wondering what those circles on each spoke were, the missile racks on the Syulen are bespoke, which means you will only ever be able to carry size 2 missiles, and won't be able to exchange them for a greater quantity of size 1s. At least the animation is cool though. Of course, none of this DPS matters if you've already been blown up. While the main body of the Syulen is actually very small, only presenting the cross-section of a Drake cutter, the spokes/legs of the ship are massive. In fact, without these spokes, the ship would likely be an entire size down and be able to land on size 2 pads instead of size 3. This is why your durability is going to be super important, especially if you're in a fight where the enemy is in front or behind you. Surprising for this size, the Syulen comes equipped with 2 size 1 shields, which give you 3,300 shield HP at stock, which can then be upgraded to a pair of FR66 for a total of 3,450. Barely worth it in my eyes. This puts it on par with the Titan and 1 size 1 shield less than the Nomad. Once those tiny shields are gone, your ship has a total HP of 12,740. All in all, this ship is not meant to take a beating, and if you lose a wing, it's really going to hurt your strongest means of survival: maneuverability. In the words of John Crew himself, the Syulen has been designed with agility and speed in mind. It comes with a total of 24 maneuvering thrusters, one of the most for a ship of this size. All of these thrusters translate to an SCM speed of 157 and a max speed of 1200 while in space. While the shape of this ship doesn't exactly look like it would be great in atmosphere, it has been designed specifically to perform well in atmosphere or in space. In my experience, this was absolutely the case, and the Syulen felt great to fly, even through thick planet atmosphere like the one on Microtech. Where the Syulen absolutely dominates is its acceleration, especially with afterburners. The Syulen gets up to 21 Gs of forward acceleration, as well as an insane 14 Gs of retro thrust, the highest in the game by far. If you ever get challenged to race backwards, the Syulen is the ship for you for sure. Of course, this kind of atmospheric performance will definitely be valuable to those just starting out with the game, especially to do the ever popular box delivery missions. This kind of maneuverability also means that players will be able to try out racing with the Syulen. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the very best can do with the Syulen. While you will have to be careful to not clip your spokes on objects while cornering, I do think it'll be one of the best starters for those looking to get a little racing done on the side. Another popular game loop in Star Citizen is bunker running. This is where I think the Syulen is one of the weakest ships in the game. The first disadvantage is that size. It is so large that you will always be visible to hostile bunker turrets, unless you park several kilometers away. If you do try parking that far away, you run into the second disadvantage: no vehicle storage. As a drawback to having no internal cargo grid, as well as the vertical layout of the ship, there just isn't any room to store a vehicle, so parking it far means you're going to be running a long way. Speaking of a long way though, that brings us to a hidden strength of the Syulen, its quantum fuel tank of 2,900 liters. This is the second largest fuel tank for ships with a size 1 quantum drive, only behind the Hull A. This huge fuel tank is an awesome quality of life feature, especially for people using the Syulen as their starter ship, since they'll be able to use the fastest size 1 quantum drive, the VK00. This cuts 40% of the travel time from Microtech to ArcCorp compared to its stock drive. Less refueling is also really useful for cargo hauling. While the 6 SCU of the Syulen isn't very impressive for most, it's just enough for a new player to get their feet wet with the game loop, as well as being a contender to carry low volume but high value cargo once those loops are further implemented in game. Of course, it's worth keeping in mind, like the Raylin, the Syulen carries all of its cargo externally, and so the cargo you carry is more susceptible to damage. So should you buy the Gatac Syulen? If you're an older backer who has the credit lying around, I think this ship is such a unique experience that it is a must-buy just to experience it for a while. If you're a new player and you're looking at purchasing a premium starter ship, I think the Syulen gives you enough access to most game loops that you won't feel the need to get a new ship right away, the same way you might in say a 100i. The only major downside in this regard is the poor cargo capacity and no vehicle storage. If these are important to you, a Nomad is still the best starter for you. The Nomad has the great ability to carry an ROC as well, and so engage in the mining game loop quicker than a Syulen owner could. Other than that, I think this ship is incredible. It flies like nothing else, it has a bespoke landing system, and the immaculately detailed interiors of this ship will never let you forget that you're flying something alien. At its current price of $72 with a game package, I think it's the obvious pick amongst other game packs, but this is a great standalone ship for everyone else who wants a new flavor. So tell me, will you be picking up a Gatac Syulen? Please like and or subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Take care and see you in the next one.